Recording started, yeah.
Okay, welcome to everybody to the City University Construction Fund meeting of October 19th, 2023. I'm going to ask everybody to silence their phones, please. IT, I'm told, is ready to go. Okay, I now call the meeting to order. I note the presence of a quorum, and we have the following action items. Approval of the minutes of the June 29th, 2023 meeting of this fund, number 2414. Are there any amendments to the minutes? Any discussion? Questions, concerns? I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Thank you. Second. I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Any abstentions? I guess not. Okay. Motion carries unanimously. I will now move the second resolution and present item 2 for the board's consideration. The trustees of the CUCF Audit Committee considered one item at its meeting on October 19th, 2023 at 3:30 p.m. Here is the resolution listed in this board meeting agenda as item 2. Resolution of the City University Construction Fund approving the annual certificate for fiscal year 2025, number 2413. Resolved that the Fund's Board of Trustees approve the annual certificate for fiscal year 2025 dated October 19th, 2023 in the form attached here too. And be it further resolved that the acting chairman of the fund is hereby authorized and directed to execute and deliver the annual certificate on behalf of the fund. I hereby request your approval of this calendar item. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any abstention? Any opposed?
Question.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Go ahead,
Is this
son.
the audit committee report?
Yes, that is what we're approving.
I have a couple of quick questions.
Take your time.
Okay.
Go ahead.
First of all, since I'm not an accountant, there are a lot of numbers here. Is there somebody at CUNY or the construction fund who verifies these numbers, or do we take the word the accountant, the firm that prepared the report?
We have both, Senator, like our team, our staff do work through the numbers, and we have also the auditing firm or the auditors with us here.
Good.
But to answer your question, yes, our financial teams, they do review it, yeah.
Good, thank you. No, that was one question I had. Another concern, 2 of the items. I noticed there's an appropriation in here for a little over $16 million in administrative costs for DASNY. And I have no problem with DASNY. I think they do a great job. But can you explain to me what the administrative costs are of $16 million?
The administrative cost, the state appropriate administrative fund to both DASNY and the CUCF to administer the capital program, and that gets split proportionally between DASNY and CUCF. So they use that to hire their project managers and construction managers and some other administrative funds that helps their team administer and manage the delivery of the capital construction projects.
So when we approve a project, that does not include the project manager or the administrative costs?
No, when we approve the project, here is the actual cost of the actual design and construction of the project, but not DASNY project managers is covered by this portion.
For example, we did, as I remember at the last meeting, a $45 million boiler operation, when we discussed at great length at the Bronx Community College. That did not include costs for a project manager?
No, not for project manager, but this project it was in collaboration with NIPA. Like DASNY is not involved in this particular boiler replacement project at Bronx, but the example still carries. for boiler replacement project will not include the cost of a project manager working at DASNY in this cost.
Because that seems awfully high for administrative costs. If there's some additional information, I will vote for the approval, it's just that I wanted to clarify that. If we could have a better breakdown, then no rush, obviously.
Absolutely, we can do that, yeah.
And secondly, I did read the audit committee material, and I saw I'm curious about one small project. And that was an appropriation of $475 for trustee fee. Can anybody know what that is? Because there are 3 trustees here. And I'm just curious.
Yeah, I will ask.
Get back to me on that.
I think we have the answer.
It's part of debt service, so it's part of what we reimburse DASNY. It's a debt service fee,
What kind of fee?
debt service.
So it is not for the trustees on the board of the fund. It's for trustee of the debt.
Of the bonds.
Of the bonds.
Yes.
That's interesting because the state generally pays the agency debt service fees in the higher ed budget, which is an interesting issue. We've tried to expand that, and we did in this year's budget, but not for CUNY, and I think we should. But thank you.
Okay, are you satisfied?
Yes.
Any other questions or concerns? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to ask for a motion on this item. Can I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay. I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Any oppositions? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, reports. Reports of the Executive Director on Senior Colleges Energy Management Master Plan. I will now call on Executive Director Mohammed Atalia to present this report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you allow me, before I make the presentation, I have also another information item, if I could
Sure.
just share with the board before we proceed with the presentation. And the idea, the item or the information item is we wish to inform the board that the CUCF Legal Counsel, Mr. Scott Burrell, has resigned from the CUCF fund and has moved back to Washington, D.C. for another opportunity. And we are in the process of hiring a replacement for Scott. During this interim period, the City University of New York Office of the Senior Vice Chancellor for Legal Affairs and General Counsel will assist CUCF in the management of its legal affairs to the extent necessary and appropriate, taking care to avoid any potential conflict of interest between the two institutions. To the extent CUNY Office of General Counsel encounters a conflict of interest or potential of a conflict of interest, it will inform us, and we will inform the CUCF Board of Trustees and act according to secure alternative counsel to avoid the conflict. CUNY Office of General Counsel will work collaboratively with CUCF until such time as a successful search for a successor to Scott has been completed. We have posted the position. We are in the search process now, and we should be able to get a counsel on board soon.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we're pleased to move.
Okay. We're going to excuse ourselves.
Thank you so
Take
much.
care.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So we brought to the City University Construction Fund Board a presentation of our energy conservation efforts and the creation of our 5-year strategic energy master plan for senior colleges. Earlier, we presented our energy master plan for community colleges, and our team worked on the development of an energy conservation plan for the senior colleges, and would like to share that with you for your information. Next, please. So we, in this presentation overview, will share with you the goal and mandates for our team, for the university in general. We'll look at the projects and the strategic roadmap as we're moving through this process. We'll also share with you the project prioritization and the capital planning process that we went through to identify projects that help us to move from where we are today to compliance with the goals and mandates. And then we'll share with you next steps and how we move forward. So we start with the goal and mandates, and our focus in order to look at this energy conservation planning process is to focus on our electricity consumption and find ways and approaches to reduce our consumption of electricity. Same for heating and also for cooling. So the focus is electricity, heating, and cooling for both. In order to look at our key goals of the master plan, we want to ensure that CUNY meets both the New York City and the New York State energy and greenhouse gas target. And as you know, we have different mandates, different goals issued by the city and by the state, and our plan is working to be in sync with both. We need to prioritize a series of projects within the next years on the short term and the long term in a cost-effective approach in order to be able to meet those goals, and it's staggered over the future years. And we will use this plan to guide our capital planning process in order to establish and prioritize projects that meet that goal. So having that as our goal and our objective, we would like to have a quick look at the goals and mandates. So as I said, we have the state goals and mandates and the city. So for the state, we're all aware of the Build Smart 2025 and Executive Order 2022, and this is what we are building towards. And Executive Order 22 has a wide array of pieces that we can look at in the future, but our focus here, as we mentioned, the energy component of it, which looks at 35% reduction of energy by 2025 from the baseline of 2015. On the city side, we're considering the Local Law 97 covered buildings, and this goal, or Local Law 97, seeks to reduce greenhouse gases by 40% by 2030 and 80% by 2050 from the 2005 baseline, and that will be through a series of reduction and increasing emission reduction targets from 2024, 30, and 35. Here in the Local Law 97, the measure and the focal of the measure is different than the state. As we said in Executive Order 22, we look at overall 35% reduction of energy. Here we're looking at reducing the carbon intensity per building, and this is how the state looks at it. Provides the city provide a particular intensity of greenhouse gases per square foot per building. So this is how we are monitoring it. So mention the two mandates. We want to look at now on where we're at right now with regard to these two mandates. So first, we want to look at where we're at with regard to the state mandate and the Executive Order 22. And what you see here, you see the baseline at the top, which is a 2015 baseline, where our energy consumption was 2,790,000 million BTUs. And this is where we want to reduce 35% going down. Right now, with our measures by the end of 2022, we were at 2,650,000 million BTUs, which is about 5% reduction. And as I mentioned, we need to go down to, or go up to 35% reduction, which is a goal for 2025. which translate to about 1,820,000 BTUs, as you see in the graphs here. So this is where we're at with the state side of things. As a city and local law 97, because here, as I mentioned, in the state, we're looking at the campus, the university wide, so we have one number looking at one thing. For the state, because it's intensity per building, per campus, so this is why you see here we have the campuses, the senior college campuses, and where we're at. Our target for 2024 is about 7.58 metric ton of CO2 equivalent per 1,000 gross square foot, which is the yellow line as you see there. And you see in the red bars, it provides the current intensity per every campus. And as you see here, all of our campuses are, with the work and the effort that has been happening in energy conservation here, is all below the target, except the three larger or older campuses, I might say, the College of Staten Island, City College of New York, and Brooklyn College, which are the three to the right. They are currently above the rate or the line. So looking at that, this is now we reviewed with you the objective of the plan, the goals and the mandates for both the city and the state, and where we're at, generally speaking, at campuses in relation to the mandate. So from that, we followed a process in order to develop the master plan. And this slide shows the process that we looked at, where we started by reviewing the goals and mandates, as we shared with you now, looked at our current projects in the pipeline, and we assessed the impact of those projects right now. It's about 700 projects, so we looked at them, we assessed their impact and where they're going to take us from where we're at today, moving towards the goals, and then created a top-down approach. When we looked at the impact of the current projects that we have, we found that there is a little gap, like the current projects we have on the pipeline for the next 5 years. It will not take us to where we want to be. So then we moved to the next step, and we call that bottom-up approach. Then we moved to a top-down approach where we started to look at the identification of projects and initiatives and categories of projects that we could create and fund that could take us to close this gap. And from there, we developed a system-wide series of projects for the short and the long term that will keep us in line with these targets. And as we see on the slides, it elaborates on the two approaches I mentioned here, the bottom-up approach and the top-down approach. Bottom-up approach, as we said, we looked at our current projects, and the top-down approach, we looked at series of projects that we create and plan as we move forward. So now we transposed those projects that we have and this idea on the slides that we looked at earlier in terms of where we're at. So as you see on the screen here, the slide and the screen you looked at before took us to 2022, because that's what we had. In this slide here, we are extended to 2025. And what we look at here is with project right now in progress, it takes us down or contribute to the reduction to 9%, projects in progress right now. And then projects in the pipeline, and that's need more definitions, it could take us down to 24%, means that we have about 11% gap that we need to close. So the value of the project that take us from the 9 to the 24 is about $77 million, and we do have these projects, and we allocated that fund from the fund that we have right now in order to implement those projects. But and that what we called the bottom-up approach. Now we need to reduce by 11% here, and that will be the top-down approach for the state side of the mandate or the target. If we look at the city side, next please. So here's the same slide we looked at when we looked at campus by campus. Where are we with the target of 7.58 metric ton of CO2 equivalent by 1,000 gross square feet? The green represent the projects that we currently have. So you see that the green is reducing further the GHG targets, which makes it better, but we still, the 3 colleges, we still higher with the green, we still higher than the limit. So we need to allocate more projects and allocate more funds in order to deal with that. So in order to allocate the project, we looked strategically and programmatically, like about initiatives and approaches, where do we allocate the fund and what will be the target piece. So when we looked at that, next please, we looked at those 6 categories. So we look at gaining and maintaining control, proactive replacement, efficiency-focused project, smart, and then at the bottom, renewable, microgrids, and electrification. So what does that mean? Gaining and maintaining control, there are very quick aspects in the top 2 categories, very quick projects that we could implement in a relatively short period of time, and we look at from 5 to 7 years or 5 years kind of implementation. That things include building automation system, retro commissioning, monitoring based commissioning, metering, repairs, lighting, and the control of lighting. So these are 2 categories that in the short term we could realize saving. Then we looked at the efficiency focused pieces, which basically looking at the building envelope and some other aspects. So we look at window replacement, roof replacement, building envelope aspect, domestic hot water, variable volume, fans. Then the smart end of life, and this is the state of good repair kind type of projects. So upgrade the infrastructure, but with higher efficiency component. So here when we look at chillers, boilers, like the very high consuming energy component, and they need investment and upgrade. So this is another category that we looked at. And then renewable and microgrids, this is the piece of the state and the government working on microgrids and greening our grid. And then electrification, which is much longer term, and it's the one that cost most of the fund, and it's really very costly. Plus, it has an impact. Also, when we go for electrification, it has an impact on the operating cost of the facilities. So now these are categories. We looked at projects, and then we started to allocate fund to it, like having a volume of magnitude level of funding that is required in order to implement that. And that will be on the next slide. So with group of projects, we saw that the entire plan, in order to reach from 2024 to 2040 to achieve the overall goal, we're looking at $1.8 billion, with the majority of it in the electrification base. The rest is about 800 million, with about 270 and 77 million on the top 2 categories, and 116 is the efficiency upgrade, and about 290 million smart end life replacement, and then renewable 45 million, and as we said, a bigger number in the electrification, which still need much more studies and analysis to look at how we're going to allocate this capital plus its impact on the operating costs. So that will need more studies. Next, please. We provided this slide here. This is where we're at right now for local law 97. We are at 172,000 metric ton of CO2 equivalent in total. And you see the line here is how we're going down with the 6 investment. The reason we put this slide here in order to share with you the importance of the microgrid and greening the grid piece, because this is the important piece that will bring us to the compliance with the objective and with the directors, the direction and the local law. Next, please. So our strategy for implementation for this, we will look at fund project definition work. As we mentioned here, we have a lot of long-term project. We have a wide array of project and categories, which many of it is not identified the scope yet. So our approach of the implementation is we make an investment of about $13-14 million to work specifically on definition of scope and definition of the initiative in order to achieve that goal. So that will be an approach to help us to be faster out to market with initiatives. Also, we'll look at it from a program point of view. So looking at a program of the building automation system, a program of windows, roofs, in order to be able to realize efficiency and learn as we move with the process, so create expertise and dealing with expert vendors. Next slide, please.
Vice Chancellor, what's BAS upgrades?
Building automation system.
Building what?
Building automation system.
Got it.
So these are like the sensors we have on the wall linked and.
Thank you. I didn't know what it was.
Skip the slide, I think. Yeah, so here again, we spoke about our approach and we tried to provide an example of how we do here. It's a very busy slide, we don't have to read it, but we put it like fund, project definition, implement, engage, expert, enhance, and education. How would that look like for the BAS project, for example, how we do that. So that's like further explanation or drilling down on our approach. Next slide, please. So now we're looking at the capital allocation. So in terms of complying with local law 97, we created group 1 and group 2. So our focus will be on group 1, obviously, for obvious reason. Since this is, we need a quick action to bring it down. So we identified projects and it's in planning in order to move with this project in an expedited approach. Next slide, please. And our strategic planning priorities, this is a different layout for the same slide we've seen before in terms of the different types of projects. This is item 1 and 2, the Go Faster program, efficiency focused, different types of programs. As we said, we're going to move in a programs approach. And in terms of the optimizing end of life, looking at HVAC systems, windows, roof, and so on. Next, please. So from a funding perspective, we're looking, as we said, we're planning for the short term and the long term. So we wanted to share with you here the short term, how it looks like for the next 5 years. So out, if you recall in the slide, we included a list of $1.8 billion for the longer term. So this is $1 billion over the next 5 years with a focus on the building automation systems, the commissioning, the lighting, the HVAC, and a piece on the renewables. And then the electrification, if you recall in the previous slide, it was about $1 billion. So in that short term, within the next 5 years, we're looking at this kind of investment in order to take some steps into the electrification and allow us an opportunity to study the impact on the operating and the actual cost, and hopefully that the technologies will be upgraded and advanced so that we can have access to this kind of technology at more reasonable cost than what is happening right now. So the previous slide looking at the overall investment, we developed that here in terms of a cash flow for the next 5 years in order to provide us in our planning perspective, when do we need funds allocated. So looking at 2024, total project about 65 million, and next year about 197. And with the funding that we have from the state, thank you to the state and Senator Stavisky and your help to secure the fund. We are in good shape in terms of our ability to allocate and make this kind of investment in order to allow us to move forward with our planning. An important piece of this, as we mentioned, the three campuses that we need to make investment in there. Next slide shows our commitment on that. Yes, next slide, please. Is the three colleges, the investment that is allocated, and the types of project that we're looking at in order to quickly tackle this greenhouse gas there and reach that reduction. And in the next slide, we're looking at the very immediate term for the definition piece. I mentioned that one of our approaches for implementation is to create a fund for the definition of the project so we can go fast to market when we have definition analysis. For energy conservation, it's not just the design. We have to do the design for the work, then we do energy simulation in order to be able to calculate the energy saving impact of the capital project on a building. So looking at about $13 million distributed in this fashion to be able to do those definition. And that brings us to the last slide to look at our immediate year for FY24. We're looking at those $13 million for definition plus the $65 million that we had on the cash flow slide for the first year. So we're looking at $78 million to be allocated. And that will conclude my presentation to you today in terms of how we plan to move forward on the energy conservation front. Thank you.
Question. So it appears these are pretty aggressive goals, and what would happen if the state can't or
Or unlikely to.
won't provide the funding? What are the possible repercussions? Like, what are the penalties? Are there penalties for non-compliance to CUNY?
There are penalties, yeah.
Yeah, there are, okay.
So we, this is why we're planning in order, like this is why we're doing this long-term plan in order
Right.
to avoid any penalties really. But we are good with the funding, and I believe with the forecast and with the level of funding that comes to the university, we'll be able to do that. In our funding submission this year, though, we included a specific ask, like more than any year. We're asking for $1 billion for the energy conservation at $200 million every year. So, like we did not submit that yet, and I'm not sure if we should mention that now, but this is something that we are working on to include in our submission in order to ensure that for the long term we have covering.
It seems hardly fair to penalize the university for not meeting these goals that government has told them they have to meet, and given that it's a public university and has to get funded by somebody.
Right. Just on a broader question, you may not know the answer to this, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot. With all the electrification, can the grid support that? The existing grid? I know you don't have an answer to this, but we have brownouts and blackouts as it is already. So with all this electrification and the ban on natural gas, can the grid support all this? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
No
this is why we included it as a sixth category, and we said it's a longer term.
Right.
Because it needs this kind of analysis and
Right.
to see
Kind of hard stuff.
what
Yeah, no worries.
what and where and when. And I don't think it's an overall response. I think there are locale probably it could support and some other locale can't.
Right.
So there will be some work and study and analysis working with both the city and the state to ensure that there is capacity for that.
Yeah, okay, I just thought I'd ask.
Couple quick questions.
Please.
Is CUNY exempt from Local Law 97?
We asked this question and we looked at it, and the answer is no.
Senator, that's a good point, and I'll tell you why. Because the city owns certain CUNY
That's
property.
the corollary to what remember we had a discussion on
Yeah.
who owns the land?
That's right.
Yeah, and that's
That's
what
exactly,
that's what I
that's a
had in
very
mind.
good point.
Some of it was DASNY and some was CUNY.
That's correct.
And it was used to support the bond issues, from what I know, using
Absolutely.
the full
Yeah.
faith and credit, whatever. That's why I asked the question.
Yeah. But I believe that's a very important question, Senator, and we try to dig and read between the lines and speak with colleagues and.
And my next question, real quick, because I don't want to prolong this. We are, each year, we approve, two things. Number one, are you going to give us copies of the PowerPoint?
Yeah, I would.
And are you going to put them on your website?
We could, yeah, we could do that.
Because I took a look at the construction fund website, and then I was curious, so I wanted to see what SUNY had on its website for their construction fund, and it's very extensive. Ours is not. My question is, when we approve these allocations out of the bond issues that we've issued, we are not requiring. For example, Bronx Community is a perfect thing. You and I had this discussion. I said, if we're putting 45 million in, why are they not electric rather than the generators or whatever, rather than burning gas?
For this, for
Are we
Bronx.
going forward, proactive, prospectively?
Yes, and so, yes, if as we move forward with full replacements, it will need to be electric, moving forward with that. Yeah.
Even if we're not subject to a local law 97, we ought to be doing it.
Yeah, and as you know, as Trustee Overfill indicated, it will need further analysis in terms whether the grid can carry it, and you know, that will be a very important criterion to look at for implementation for something like that. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, report of the chair. The next meeting is tentatively scheduled for Thursday, December 14th at 4 p.m. I say tentatively because they always change.
I have a question. If my district office is open to the public, as it is, can I join via Zoom from my district office? Would you get back to me?
Yes.
Yeah,
I got stuck in traffic.
yeah, no.
Yeah.
December
it's-
14th?
Yeah, I think the.
Will you get back to me with
Yeah,
that
I'll get back
answer?
to you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any further items of business?
Is it 4 p.m.?
All right, and not hearing any, I'd like, yes, the 14th.
With 4 p.m.
I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Do so move.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.